Hi guys, if you like this video, please smash that like button. Click subscribe because that really helps us bring you more videos. And don't forget to click the bell and you'll get notified of our latest videos, or otherwise you might miss them. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you.
Hi, welcome back to the Mission RV Services channel. I'm Drew with Mission RV Services, and today we are going to be working on a furnace. So the customer complaint on this particular furnace is furnace kicks on after they set the temperature, starts right up, goes for roughly 30 seconds and then shuts off. So we have a sneaking suspicion it might be a sail switch, but it could also be a board. A couple other things. Luckily, this particular unit has a outside access cover. This right here is our sail switch, and this is what we believe is the potential problem with this particular furnace. And we're going to show you how. First thing we're going to do is we're going to pull these two screws off. We're going to pull the sail switch out. We do have this in the off position, and I did that for the reason of I have the thermostat selected to heat right now inside, and I'm leaving it off. So when I pull this sail switch off, first I'm going to look, just see if it's dirty, if it's got maybe hair and debris in it. If it does, I'm going to grab this WD-40 contact cleaner, and I'll give it a few shots of that and see if we can clean it up and get it to work. If that doesn't work, then maybe it's not just dirty, maybe the actual sail switch is damaged, and I will show you how we can check for that too. So these two wires actually complete a circuit. So what happens is when the furnace kicks on, the fan kicks on, and when that fan kicks on, it closes this switch. So they call it a sail switch because it's a long piece of metal, which we'll show you in a second. And that closes, so think of it sitting like this, the fan closes it, and that completes the circuit. So that happens within the first couple seconds of operation of the fan turning. So once that happens, it tells this circuit board, hey, the fan is operational, the circuit is closed, and it's okay to let the gas valves open up and begin the ignition sequence. Now, if the board doesn't sense that the fan is turning, so this either is one, it's stuck in the closed position or stuck in the open position, then the board doesn't get the signal saying, hey, I just went from an open circuit to a closed circuit. I'm not letting the gas valves open, and I'm shutting down right away as a safety measure. So we believe we hopefully just have a dirty sail switch today. 90-degree day here in Michigan, perfect time to work on a furnace. And but actually it may be the perfect time to work on a furnace because you don't want your furnace going down on a cold day. This furnace has been down since late spring, and the customer realized it, but it was getting warmer and they've kind of been putting it off. And now, knowing that it's September here in Michigan and fall is coming quick and the mornings are getting chillier, they want to make sure this furnace is active for them. So we're going to pull this right now and we're going to take a look at it. So we just use a small screwdriver on everything we're doing today is really just a couple screwdrivers. You could use your 9-in-1, 11-in-1 screwdriver. Remember, this is all plastic, so we try not to use, you can use power drill on it. Just remember you're drilling back into plastic. Just don't go gung-ho with it and use an impact, but a screwdriver works just fine. All right, so we're gonna pull that screw sticking right there. Let's pull that out. There we go. So put my eyeballs back on here. So what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a bunch of debris and hair and things. And these are all things that are indicators that we may have. See if make sure you can get a good shot of that. But those are indicators that say that, you know, this may be dirty. But again, it may have failed. So, but this is why they call it a sail switch, because it kind of sticks up like a sail, right? So, but when the fan kicks on, so this sits just like, oh, here we go, just like this in there. When the fan right here kicks on, it pushes that sail switch closed. So if this is just stuck like that in the closed position, then the board doesn't recognize that signal. So it has to be within the first few seconds of cycle that it actually goes from open to closed in order for the board to tell it what to do. So now what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and we're first going to try to clean this a little bit, and then we'll hit our reset button here. We'll start this up, we'll get the fan going, and then I'm going to act like the fan and I'm going to close the switch. And now if the cleaning works right for it and everything works well, we should have an ignition sequence. If that was it, then cleaning it worked. If not, then we'll go to a next process is where we pull these two wires off, and we're going to mimic, and by joining those two connectors together after the fan kicks on, we can mimic that switch working. But you can't, like, again, you can't hold them together and try it. You actually have to make a connection. So that's as one way we can test to see if we have a bad sail switch. But we do believe this is the culprit. I don't believe it's a board. It seems like the board is acting like it's supposed to, but we're not going to rule that out yet because we're following the flow, right? So let's clean this real quick and then we'll test it out. So we're putting just a little contact cleaner on this, and then we'll operate it in and out a couple times. Now before we energize this, we're going to let it dry for a minute or two, but it's hard to see right here, but you can see I can actually pull like almost like lint and debris out of that, and it's just from operating, right? That fan is drawing things in. So we'll keep cleaning that. I probably should be wearing gloves, but I'm not the smartest guy on the planet sometimes. But it's kind of like an alcohol that this contact cleaner is. So just making sure that we're getting in there. And remember, this is de-energized right now. I don't have any power going to it. Take our little rag here and just wipe down around the edge of that. Wipe the switch itself off. So one of the things they say is that sail switches are probably the part that goes bad on furnaces more than anything. And I don't really disagree with that they go bad, but a lot of times I find that they're not necessarily bad, they're just dirty. So part of your, yearly, bi-yearly maintenance is you should be cleaning these, because what I do find is when it gets that debris in there before we pulled it out, it might have been stuck in that position. We can't see that in there, but now it's plunging out pretty good. So remember, it sits upright, so the fan kicks on, pushes it closed. And if you can kind of tell here, you can almost see where it's on a bit of an angle based on that fan activity. So, but it might have been stuck like that inside the chamber here, and we just didn't realize it. But I could tell before it wasn't really moving out very well, so it might have just been stuck like this in there. So, but now it seems to be moving pretty good. We're going to let it dry for another minute here, and then we'll act like the ignition sequence. So, okay, so now we've let this dry. I'm going to kick this back on. As soon as that fan kicks on, and we'll see if we can get a shot of the fan maybe moving in there, but as soon as that fan kicks on, within the first couple seconds, I'm going to depress the plunger, and then we're going to see what happens. So if that doesn't work, we'll go in, we'll reset the thermostat. So just turning this off and on didn't work for us. Sometimes it does, but on the Atwood here it didn't. So what I would need to do is try to pull that board out and unplug it, but Jen going in and just resetting it. So once the fan kicks on, I'm going to depress this, and if the sail switch is good, then it'll work. As soon as that fan kicks on, there it goes. go. We had a dirty sail switch. So we're going to turn that off. So that's what we had in this case, was a dirty sail switch. So it was probably stuck in the closed position, and yeah. So now we can go ahead and put this back together. This was an easy repair for the customer. You know, again, if we want to check the continuity, let me grab the meter real quick. We'll show you how to do a continuity check with the meter, and we'll go over that real quick too. Just give you a couple different options. If you don't have a multimeter, that's how you would check this. But we'll also show you how to check it with a multimeter. So let me grab the multimeter and we'll show you how to do that part. Okay, so we're setting our meter to ohms because we're looking for resistance. I'm going to hook it right here. So then we're going to put one lead on one contact, and then we're going to put the other lead on the other contact. And right now, if you'll see the meter up here, see we have one on each contact, it's open, right? But as soon as I close the switch, hear the tone. So basically it's telling me the circuit is now closed. So open, closed. So that tells me I should have a good switch. Now, there could be some other things wrong inside of there where it's maybe not letting the circuit cycle completely. There could be some intermittent issues, but really the bigger concern here was this was just a dirty switch. And now it's working like it should. As soon as I let off, it goes back to open, closed, open. It's working well. You saw all the gunk and debris. So in this case, we just had a bad switch, or not a bad switch, but a dirty switch. If we had a bad switch, we would change that out. But generally, this is one of the biggest furnace calls, is a bad or dirty sail switch. Now, if this was super hard to get to, and I didn't have this access panel, and it was right here, I may recommend to the owner or the RV owner to say, you know, if I had to pull this furnace and it was dirty, I'd probably say, look, for the $15, let's put a new switch in, because it's going to take me an hour to pull that furnace out, get it back in. You know, let's just spend the $15 on a new switch and not take a chance. But since this one is so easy to access, you know, let's just take the chance, clean it, and get it working right. But if you're getting a furnace that's kicking on for 30 seconds and shutting off, this is probably your culprit, dirty or bad sail switch. Okay, so now that we've taken it apart and we've tested it, and we're going to, so it's going to slide right back up in there. So remember, so this is where, if you don't do this all the time, always take pictures of everything. So, because what you don't want to do is, one thing on this, the wires aren't going to allow you to do it, right? It's kind of in a way to where you can't put it in upside down. You can't put it in sideways because there's no screw holes. So the good thing is, it's kind of what we used to call in manufacturing pokey yoked. So error proofing, right? So this is a good example of a pokey yoke, which is a Japanese term, or error proofing. So you can only put this in one way. The wires aren't allowing you to put it in a different way. So we're going to start screwing that in. And again, just hand tools is good for this job. It's only taking a second to do it. You know, would a drill be a little bit faster? Sure, but then I might risk damaging the threads on this and not keeping this secure. So as you see, this really isn't taking very long to screw this in. And the last thing is this off reset button. This could ruin your day. So if this is stuck in the off position, again, the outside access cover is great for this application because it's really easy to get to. But if this furnace was in a basement of a fifth wheel or a motorhome, and getting to it would be a nightmare, right? You have to pull the whole furnace, remove the gas line. You know, if you're lucky, you might have some access to it, but imagine leaving this switch in the off position. You get everything back together and then you can't get to the switch. That's a headache. So, and if you're a technician and you do that, well, that's your dime you're doing that. So you're going to spend another hour going back in. So techs out there, Keep this on your internal checklist, a written checklist if you need to. Make sure that you put that back in the on position, not off, because it's going to be your responsibility to pull it back apart. So we are in the, make sure all the tools are removed from there before the cover's on. Make sure all your power lines are back in. So now that we're fully on, we have a red flashing light back there on the Atwood board. It's in standby position. So we know we're in good shape, everything's ready to go. One thing we could do, which we will do, but we won't bore you on video, is we'll go back in and we'll run one more cycle on it now that everything's back together, just to see it fire off. And remember, so let me grab the cover here. So this is the exhaust extension right here. So this piece goes into the outside here, which is the exhaust that comes out of the coach, and this goes inside this tube, and this just ensures that the exhaust is exhausting out of the coach and not into the coach. So a lot of times what will happen is we can get these to fire off for a few seconds, but because this isn't exhausting correctly, it will usually shut down the furnace. Does this on Suburbans, does this on Atwoods. That's a safety feature. You know, sometimes they may run longer without that tube in there, but generally it's good practice. You have to have that tube in there so this will continue to fire off correctly. Otherwise it's going to throw too much heat up here and it's going to start sending the board into a fit, and it'll shut everything down on you. So make sure you have your tube on when you're running full cycles. If you're just testing for firing off, you can probably get away with a half cycle on it like we did today. So, but now what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this video up. We'll do our own test cycle. We recommend that before you close everything up when you're working on your project, and then we'll finish the job up. But this customer is going to be good to go, and we're on to the next.